And we are live. Hello, everybody. We'll be going live in a few minutes. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to join. Great having you here, everyone. Alright, so as far as I'm concerned, we can get the show started. I hope you're all doing alright. Everybody, it's my great pleasure to announce that I have Pink Draconian with me. How are you, my friend?
Hello everybody, I'm doing great. It's a rainy Sunday, but that's a perfect day for some hacking, for talking about hacking and everything to do with it, so I'm excited.
Exactly, awesome. Like you said, rainy Sundays, excellent time to be inside. Great time to start a podcast as well. So I'm excited as well. We have a couple of sections prepared for you guys. First of all, we're going to start with Hacker News. We both have an article that we want to present to you guys. The article that I chose isn't going to be as recent as the one that my friend Pink Draconian chose. But nonetheless, the one that I have has something to do with a new ransomware called Pay2Key. Now, why did I pick this article specifically? First of all, I really like ransomware. It's really interesting how, first of all, they don't charge as much as other ransomware does. It's peanuts compared to other types of ransomware. But also, I really like this one because in the beginning, this one stayed undetected for quite a while. Right now, about 34 total virus scanners can detect this type of vulnerability, but it stayed undetected for quite a while. And if you guys want to read the article, we'll put a link in the chat as well, so you guys can read that. Now, Pink Draconian, which one did you pick? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, I have a blog from CryptoHack, which is about in macOS, some users noticed that their computer was running slower for some reason. And well, it turned out that that was because there was a service behind the OCSP, which was overloaded. And that service, pretty much what it does, it verifies cryptographic certificates for app developers, for the apps of developers. So it's very interesting that you buy your PC and you think, okay, I have this and this is all mine, but really it isn't, because well, you're still dependent on their services. And if Apple, like in this case, it was overloaded and that's why your computer was slower. But what if Apple says, okay, we're not supporting this anymore, we're shutting the service down and you can't use your computer anymore? So I think a lot of people think they own their stuff, where in reality they don't. I think that's very interesting and something that not a lot of people think about.
Yeah, that's very interesting indeed. We don't think about it, but a lot of the stuff that we own, exactly, we don't really own that. Like, I was thinking about that recently, how much of the stuff that we have standing around here is unable to be modified, first of all, because of its complexity. Like my cell phone, if I would have to repair my battery, I'm pretty much screwed for that, you know. An iPhone, never mind, don't even think about it.
I think that's the whole idea that George Hotz has as well. I don't know if you know him.
No, haven't heard of him.
He's currently doing. He was the one that hacked the PS4, I think, or PS3 at the time. Because he also had this idea of, hey, I own this device, I own these electronics, so I want to have them. He became very famous with it, and now he's making cars that can drive themselves, stuff like that. But he's a very big figure as well. I think the idea that he brought forward, like, hey, we own this stuff, but we don't actually, is interesting. And
yeah, I really like also your car. Like you said, your car is one of the most one of the biggest aspects in that regard for me, because in the old days I used to remember when you used to own your car, you could still tinker a little bit. Like if one of the lights went out, you used to be able to do that yourself. But now, if one of those lights goes out, I'm screwed, man.
Exactly.
I have to call somebody. Yeah, it's like the right to repair. I don't know if you know Lois Rossman.
Never heard.
He's a really big proponent of right to repair as well, and I can really follow him in that regard, because if my macOS breaks right now, I'm also screwed. And
yeah,
Apple likes it that way.
I think a lot of companies like it that way.
Yeah.
But I think me as a person that is like educated in IT, and I think like a lot of the viewers as well will have this same feeling that we don't want that, because we're also kind of lending out our security, we're lending out all this stuff, and there's a lot of good things about this as well, but there's also a lot of things that are kind of questionable and think about.
Yeah, so really like that topic. Thank you very much. Now, for the write-ups of the week, I went with a bug bounty write-up. The one that I went with is access to multiple production Grafana dashboards. Now, I really like this one because it's very, very simple. This user found, when he was bug bounty hunting, some production Grafana instances, and he contained some very confidential information. This might seem super obvious to somebody who's like known with Grafana and knows what Grafana does, but Grafana it like gathers your metrics and you can use it to consult those metrics. So it's like really simple. He probably found this just like fuzzing. He says it here as well. While fuzzing patterns of certain Snapchat related projects, I was able to find an instance of Grafana which was accessible by a guest user. The instance contains hundreds of production dashboards, valuable data about the company. Furthermore, one of the custom modules was vulnerable to SQL injection. So, really nice find. I don't know how he did that. He tells us he's fuzzing, but like the fuzzing list that he was using must have been very important in this one. There was no other way for me, you know. Could you tell us a little bit about the write-up you chose? Because I found that one super interesting as well.
I also want to discuss this a little bit more
Sure.
about this one, because we have this instance that is pretty much accessible by a guest user now. Why did that happen? You have to imagine, like, how did that occur? Because somebody will have had to set up this instance, and so is this a mistake? One, because they have so many things and they just don't really have a great view of their what they have in production and what is accessible by who, or was this something that they just didn't think was possible? Because for the company, you have to think, well, they're going to have to fix this, but if they fix this, well, okay, they solved this issue, but how can they make sure that this doesn't occur in the future? I think that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting remark. I was thinking about the same thing a while ago when I first read this report, and I sort of just assumed it was a misconfiguration. But now that I've read the disclosure date, I'm thinking maybe this is even Corona related, you know, with people working at home a lot more. Maybe some Grafana dashboards went open up that wouldn't normally even be open. So I think like this disease has a lot of complications in our life, even beyond what we first think of. You know?
Yeah, because a lot of companies for Corona, if I may go a little bit that side, they had to switch stuff up. They had to set up VPNs very quickly. They had to set up all this infrastructure really quickly. They were not prepared for it, and that can bring a lot of security issues with it, because it has to go fast, and the IT team sometimes maybe isn't prepared for that. And
Yeah, very true. I remember that distinctly from. I used to work at a company and they gave out public Zoom meetings. Everybody could join those meetings, and I was like, aren't you guys a little bit more careful with this super secret information?
For me, Zoom is, at this point, there's been so many reports about them. They're kind of a little bit of no-go for me. There's so many alternatives, and yeah. And you could talk about the Zoom vulnerabilities for hours on end at this point.
Very true. That's true. Yeah, let's not go into that into too much detail. So
No, but yeah,
really,
well, we'll move on to the write-up that I chose, which is one of a person who found a RCE in Discord itself. Now, this is obviously very interesting because I think a lot of us use Discord on the daily, and I've never even thought about pen testing or bug bounty on Discord, but and Discord is an Electron app, right? So this person is obviously very familiar with Electron, and in Electron you have this context isolation and this this context isolation, which pretty much should be set to false for almost every application, but Discord didn't have it set false. Now that meant that from an iframe, if I understand it correctly, he could call any function that he wanted. So that's the first step of this. He found out, okay, if I can get JavaScript execution in an iframe, then I can do something interesting. So then he went looking for that kind of stuff. So we looked for embeds in Discord, and I don't know if you know Discord well, but if you post a link, it'll show you like a little preview of the link. It's like in a YouTube video, it'll show you the YouTube video where you can click play in Discord itself. And he found out that Discord has this capability for some kind of a modeling software. And then in the modeling software, Discord has this capability where if you post a link, you can load the model and you can view the model. And he found an XSS in that modeling software itself. So he was pen testing Discord, but then he went, okay, I need some XSS somewhere else. So he went outside of Discord, found an XSS in another service that could then be used in Discord itself to get an RCE, which is crazy. And then that RCE itself also was another bug in Electron itself. So he kind of has 3 bugs here that combined together get him an RCE on Discord. He got $5,000 from Discord, 300 for the XSS in this modeling software. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how much work went into this, and I think it's a really cool RCE and I often have people that ask me, hey, do you think in the future computers will be able to replace hackers and AI will be able to do bug bounty for us? But then when you read stuff like this, you're like, no, that's not going to be able to happen, because this is just so much stuff that needs to come together, so much research that needs to go into this, and it's crazy. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, a couple of points I would like to mention there. You were talking about AI a little bit and automation, and of course I'm a big proponent of automation because it makes our life easier, but like automation can only do stupid stuff, and it can only look where you as a user tell it to look. And that's one of the biggest flaws with automation, in my opinion, is it can only identify vulnerabilities that you tell it exist, whereas we as a human, when we go through the application, we will always notice things that we cannot put into words very easily, you know, like there might be a couple of pixels off when you enter some strange character, which might lead you to believe that character is breaking some code in the backend or something. You know, all of that stuff that's never going to be noticed by robots. So no, I don't think automation is going to take over our jobs anytime soon at all, even AI. And one of the other reasons I say this is because, and I will get back to this later on what I've been working on this week. AI is nowhere near as sophisticated as people often make it out to be. People think AI is this kind of superpower that knows all, but you have to look at it like some toddler learning to play with some blocks, you know? And that's where...
Yeah, exactly.
It's still in its infancy, very, very much so, and I don't think we'll even see in our lifetimes, like the major steps that people think about, like emotions and proper thinking in AI, you know? So, yeah. And then of course the chaining of the vulnerabilities, wow, that really blew my mind. That's something I'm super interested in as a researcher, because one time I found a vulnerability of cross-site scripting, and I was able to chain it with a CSRF because it was a self cross-site scripting. But then I was able to chain it with CSRF to get some really cool vulnerabilities, but I wasn't able to chain it any further. And ever since that day, I was like, God dang it, whenever I find anything, I'm going to escalate it to the moon and beyond, you know?
Yeah, that's I think it's also a very important skill to have, because a lot of people, when they find something, they are of course very ecstatic that, oh, hey, I found this XSS, I found this. But if you were to keep that to yourself for a little longer and go further, you could maybe get some insane chains going that would just blow people's minds, such as this one.
Yeah, exactly. And that's often difficult. I get that. I understand. If you find that cross-site scripting, you want to report it. But especially on programs that have been open for a while, if you are really the first person to find that vulnerability, or if you really find that vulnerability, the chance is very high that you're the first person to find it, because the program isn't going to leave it open for that long if somebody else has reported it before. So, and if it's been reported before, it's already going to be a dupe anyway. So take your time. That's some very valuable advice I would like to give you. Unless you're the first person on a target, take your time. So one thing I would also like to touch on is like this guy knowing React inside and out. Like that's something that's very important. And I always try to hammer on this as much as possible. Like read the documentation wherever you can, you know. Like, I don't know how many of you guys do this, but whenever I have downtime, like if I'm just chilling because the baby's in bed and all of my tasks are done, I go on and I start to read documentation from the targets that I've been hacking, you know. That's where I find some of the most valuable stuff. And if you don't want to read documentation, then go through the JavaScript files or just do anything related to your target, you know?
Yeah, I always say, like, if you're a hacker or you're somebody that's researching security, you want to get in somewhere, but you have to imagine if you're trying to break into a house, but you don't even know how a door works, you're not going to be able to get into the house. So you first have to know what is the normal workings of my target, what is it supposed to do, like read the documentation, find that out, and then you can start thinking, okay, what here is something that I might be able to exploit further.
Exactly, that's very important. If you throw random stuff at a website and it breaks, you want to know why. You don't care about it breaking. Of course, that's interesting. That's what triggers your sense of detective, I'll say. But the reason we've gotten into this game, at least I'm speaking for myself right now, but I think quite a lot of you think the same. For me, it's just because I like puzzles, you know. I really like to know why. I like to break things down and so.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the wanting to see things break down part, but also just you want to know how something works, and it's like you can use stuff and you just want to understand what is behind this, and I think that fueled it for me. Just having to use websites, and I was like, when I was 12, I was like, how does this work? How can I do this myself? And from there I went, how can I break this? And then that's just really interesting, and if you keep on going into that and keep on working into that, you're not even gonna remember your first thought of how can I make a website or how can I break a website, but you're gonna get into so much more interesting stuff. It's crazy what this world has to offer, the InfoSec world.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also why I've become a software tester, and I think that helps me in my InfoSec journeys as well. Because as a software tester, I learned never to have any pretense about anything I've been testing. You know, if I'm testing a website, I go in blind. I don't assume anything, because to assume is to make an ass out of you and me. That's what they always say. And
yeah.
that attitude really helps, you know. Now, for the video of the week section, I've picked a video that's from Stuck. It's from a while ago. It's not exactly from this week, but I really like it. It's called How I Became Hacker 1 Most Valuable Hacker Without Writing a Single Line of Python. I really like this video from him because it shows that you don't have to be a super in-depth programmer to do bug bounties, you know. Me as well, when I do any bug bounty hunting, I don't go for the super technical bugs like command injection, SSRF. I always leave that to the side. If I accidentally come upon it, of course I'll go into it more, but my main focus is functionality.
Yeah, I think for me that kind of hits, because I always try to make things as technical as possible. I love the technical side, but sometimes that kind of stops me in my tracks, because I should think about it more as a high levels thing as well. So yeah, this video is definitely very motivational, for sure. I think Stock is insane at motivating people, and his whole brand kind of does that. And if you read the comments on this video as well, it's all just people saying like, "Hey, you inspired me to do this. Yeah." He doesn't make like the technical content that I usually watch, but he is so motivational that I just want to get started. I watch one of his videos and I'm like, okay, Kali booting, let's go.
Exactly. That's also why I like this one as much. Like, I've been very, I don't feel like a hacker. I'm going to tell it straight like it is. I don't feel like a hacker because all I do is read manuals and go through the application manually. I don't like to automate things anyway, like all of this technical stuff. So I don't really feel like a hacker, but when I've watched some of his stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go.
Yes. Oh, I love that feeling, man. That's what I live for.
Yeah, it's like I have two moods. I don't know how recognizable this is for you, but I'm either feeling down low, I cannot do anything, or yeah, I'm on top of the world, let's go.
Exactly. Oh.
All right, man. So you picked a really cool video as well, Google Capture the Flag, from 24/7 CTF.
Yeah, so 24/7 CTF is a really cool dude. I suggest you all check him out. He makes great write-up videos of very high quality. And this challenge was no different than just high quality. It's a very difficult challenge. Like, Google rates this challenge easy, but don't let that fool you. It's not easy at all. Like, even I don't fully understand this video, because the whole idea of it, this is a sandbox challenge. So what does that mean? You have to escape out of a sandbox into the real PC, I guess, and into a further container. And this challenge has a jail where you can only execute certain syscalls. But then the challenge also creates a child process, forks a child process, and in that child process you then don't have the jail, but then you have to get your shellcode to that child process, and it's crazy, and I don't fully understand it. And it just blows my mind to watch these videos and see how people solved it and the thought process that people had. And it also comes back to how I got started in cybersecurity, because I started when I was 14. I didn't know any code, I didn't know anything, and I just watched Live Overflow videos, and I thought like, wow, this is insane, this is crazy, how can somebody understand this? And through the years I learned some coding, I learned some programming, and then I started rewatching those videos, and I was like, oh, now I understand this, now I understand that. And now I can almost always, like, that's not true, I can sometimes fully understand the video. But yeah, it's very, I think watching these videos that are way above your level, to then try to understand, and then work 3 months to try to understand it, and then watch them again, and then you'll see, oh, now I know this stuff, now I know this stuff. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I have the same feeling when I look back at older stuff that I didn't understand when I first watched it. Though I must say that now I have a new habit, sort of, like whenever I watch this kind of stuff and I don't fully understand it, I try to write down the words that I don't understand, and then I just Google them after the video. And then, I try to go as deep until I fully understand everything. And that's really like, it helped me quite a lot, because of course you'll go further quite a lot faster than if you just let it come to you passively. But of course you don't always want to do that. Of course sometimes I just want to chill as well and just watch some of these cool videos.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's why I also have a nice mix of, I have a lot of security related content in my subscription box, and a lot of it is very technical. Then I also have these less technical, motivational, but that are still really interesting. So I can kind of switch between them, because you obviously, your brain can't always handle these insane hard challenges that you don't understand, and you have to Google a lot of stuff afterwards, and so it's good to switch that up.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my thought as well. Like, you have to have a good mix of everything, yin and yang. You have to be really in balance in life. And it goes for everything, like in hacking as well. I don't know, sorry to go off track a little bit here, but I don't know how much time you spend hacking every week. But I've noticed that it's really hard to balance hacking with my family properly. I need to spend enough time to both of them, and I often find myself going into hacking more at night. But of course, that's not good either, because I don't want to be awake until 3 or 4 a.m. and then have to get up at 6 again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know how I didn't know anything about balancing a family in it, but I'm balancing my school life, and it's sometimes difficult. You have to make priorities because I have so many projects that I have to finish as well. But then I also want to get into my Kali and get some hacking, some pen testing done, and it's very hard to also with CTFs. Like for example, the Google CTF, I just didn't have time to participate, and I would have loved to try these challenges first and then read a write-up, because that's obviously the best way to do this kind of stuff. First try the challenge yourself, fail at it, then read the write-up until where you were, and you learn something new, you go back to the challenge, try it again. But yeah, time is a very big issue. I wish there were 48 hours in one day. Honestly, that's if a genie ever comes to me and says you have one wish, that's my wish.
I would totally stand behind that. Please give us more time. And that's like when I went for my OSCP, that was one of my biggest problems, the time constraint. That was terrible, like 24 hours to hack 5 machines. You really have to go further than hacking to complete that exam. Like,
yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I don't like the whole idea of like CTFs and these certifications having 24 hours. I think that's like a very unhealthy lifestyle, because it kind of promotes, like definitely for CTFs that are like 24 or 48 hours, it promotes staying up all night, having this very unhealthy lifestyle. I really enjoy it when they are just like 12 hours, so you can just spend 12 hours on them and then still kind of have a healthy life and not have to stay up until 1 a.m. or later. And
though I must say, having organized the CTF, one of the biggest problems is time zones.
Yeah.
People are like in different time zones all of the time, and it really makes things complicated. That's why like we chose to make it 48 hours or like even 72, I believe, but we gave people enough time to actually not just be hacking all of the time, you know. We wanted to make it balanced. But of course, some people don't listen and they just hack away anyway.
I mean, congrats to them if they can do it, but I can't. I need my sleep.
Same. Alright, so for the tools of the week, I went with Nuclei from Project Discovery. The reason why I went with this is I need to explain a couple of things. So what this tool does, first of all, is it's like it can do some targeted scanning based on templates. There are some pre-built templates that you can download, or you can create your own templates and en masse scan your targets using those templates. Now, I really disadvise from using the built-in templates or using the standard templates. I would highly advise that you build your own. The reason I say this is because I'm going to take an example. The cross-site scripting templates, they are built from a couple of people's experiences, and of course that's going to be good. But cross-site scripting has so many chances to occur, like you can do some JavaScript escaping, you can do some HTML code injection and do some JavaScript that way. You can do some AJAX hijacking. There are many different ways for you to do cross-site scripting. Some of these ways have not been described in a template yet. And of course, if you come across one of these ways and you create your own template, you're not going to give that template to other people before you mass scan every single target that you can find. So that's why I highly disadvise from using the pre-built templates. And if you know what you're doing, put some time into it and create your own templates for this. I don't know if you've ever used Nuclei itself. I
had never heard of it actually, but it seems very, very interesting.
It's really useful.
The fact that because it's obviously an automation tool, and automation is all great, but automation tools, most of the time, they just make sure that everybody has kind of the same tools, and if somebody's already run it on a target, there's no point in you running it again. But with these templates that you can write yourself, that obviously makes it more interesting, because then yeah, you can make it the way you want it, and make it better, and add stuff that you've seen and that you want to search for. So yeah, that's really, really interesting, actually.
And these templates, they're not hard to write. I have one on screen right now, and it's basically just a YAML file. I don't know if you heard about that, but probably have. It's pretty simple. You just give it like a normal YAML file. You give it the request that it has to do. You give it a bit of information. In the request comes the method, which path to check for, which headers to give it, some match conditions, basically some regular expressions, and then you have your template. So it can be super, super simple. This is one that for the shell shock CVE that I have on screen right now. And it's really useful, especially if you're a bug bounty hunter. I would highly recommend that if you find a vulnerability, that you just create a template for that vulnerability and you just check all of the targets that you've checked before. This is why it's super important for me that you guys take notes when you do anything, because how else are you going to keep track of your targets? Like for me it's very important that down the line I can go back, I can check all of my targets again for certain vulnerabilities that I found, because it's not uncommon that some vulnerabilities are shared across other different targets, you know. I don't know if you have any experience with that, but that's been my experience at least.
I think that the whole idea of taking notes and taking good notes, it's incredibly important. Also, if you're still learning, also take amazing notes, because your notes are kind of, your memory can't process everything. You're gonna forget stuff because there's so much to learn. So if you have good notes, then you can remember, oh, I did this before. And I even wrote some tools for myself, because I had notes for like everything I did learning. And then I wrote a short script where I can grab through all of my notes. So if I know that I've done something but I don't know where, I can just type the quick command and boom, I get like, okay, these are my notes from when I did that previously. And I think, yeah, your notes can, one, be useful to go back to your targets that you've already done, but also if you know that you've already done something and you have a target right now, you can find that again. So yeah, note taking, get a good software for your notes, get into a groove with writing notes so you always know how to do that, and you know the structure and everything.
Exactly. So you've proposed a really interesting tool as well, Bloodhound. I never heard about that. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Okay, so Bloodhound is an amazing tool for doing Active Directory scanning. It's Bloodhound pretty much isn't an exploitation tool. It's not even a scanning tool. You run Bloodhound locally on your computer, and then you give it the information from the Active Directory domain. And you can ingest that information through using SharpHound, which is the ingester that they use. And what SharpHound is going to do, it's going to query the domain controller in your Active Directory domain, and it's going to take all the information from it. And like all the users in your Active Directory, all the computers, everything, all the groups. And what Bloodhound is going to then do, it's going to take that file, all that information, and it's going to map that for you in a graphing software. So you're going to see a nice graph of, okay, this user is connected to that user through this property. This user is of this group, and this group can do this, and that group is part of that group. So then you get a nice graph of, okay, this user has these capabilities. And then you can start to find really interesting stuff. You can start to find users that have a path to becoming a domain admin. For me, myself, I've used Bloodhound a lot in actual pen testing tests. I've used it to the extreme on a Active Directory domain with over 50,000 users, which really blew up the graphing software, but it still worked, and I was able to get domain admin on that specific domain. So it's a tool if you want to do or learn Active Directory pen testing. Get familiar with this tool, because the great thing about it is you can run this even if you have some Defender enabled. So on my target that I used it on, they had like a full-blown, they had Defender enabled, they had antivirus, all that stuff. But because this ingester is only just going to take the data from the domain controller that you can access anyway, it doesn't get flagged. And then with all this data you can write queries that is going to find paths through your data and get yourself access like Kerber roasting accounts, SREP roasting accounts, all that cool stuff. Definitely get familiar to it. And if you want some examples of how to use it, I don't know if you can pull this up, but if you go on my website and type Bloodhound and Sharphound, you'll see that I have used it in a couple of boxes before. I'll post a link in the description as well.
Oh, excellent. So your GitHub, you mean, or your...
My website, it's http pinkdraconian.darkcode.com. And yeah, if you type in the search bar Bloodhound, you'll see some videos where I used it, so you can kind of check that out and practice with it, because it takes some practice to do and use properly.
That's really cool. You have a really awesome website, by the way. There we go. We can see it now. So if you guys are interested, I'll put this one in the chat as well. This is like Pink Draconian's website that I have up on screen right now. So I really like that tool. I can imagine a couple of attack scenarios where this would be very useful, especially since you don't get flagged, like you said. That's something that I always found interesting in tools like this. And I'm not very good at Active Directory, so it wouldn't be bad if I had some practice in that. Not at all. So definitely something I'm going to be checking out there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, one thing I still wanted to mention is this tool is kind of the feeling that I get when I use it, and then I find a way to get domain admin, and then I talk to the administrators of that domain, and it's say, okay, I found this. I always have a feeling that the tool gives me a view of Active Directory that they don't have, because I get this view of how everything works. I see in a graph, okay, this is connected to that and that's connected to that, and these admins of these domains don't have that, and they don't fully understand the connections that there are. So I think this would also, for blue teaming, would also be a great way to map out your domain that you're working on, that you're defending. So yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a good idea. Like, for blue teaming as well, I often wonder why blue teamers don't have these kind of tools.
Yeah.
Alright, so for what we've been working on this week, you wanted to show us something. I don't know if it's possible to share your screen. I have my Discord open on the stream right now.
Let's see if I can share screen 1. There we go. Go live. So, okay.
Alright.
So I've been working on, in the past couple of weeks, I've been working on a kind of full methodology for pen testing JWT tokens, right? So I have my Git book here, where you have a full methodology that's going through all the steps, all the possible attacks that there are with JWT tokens. I don't know if you guys are all aware of JWT tokens. Maybe I'll do a short introduction to them. So a JWT token is pretty much a way for you to keep sessions with a server, for you to also kind of authenticate with it. So it has a header, it has data, and then a signature. And example data would be your name, or for a login of a website, you would have your username or something like that, and it's signed by the server. So only the server can edit it. And there's a couple of vulnerabilities that are very interesting, and this is like a whole methodology for finding almost everything. It's not fully complete yet, but I also wrote a kind of script here that's gonna, you can give it some information. So for example, we are currently doing this on a demo from Sjoerd Langkemper. It's a demo that pretty much gives you a JWT token. Like, so let's get a new one, copy that, and then you can send it, and it's going to show you the information that's in the JWT token. So here it says hello world. Okay. Now we want to edit this JWT token. So what are we going to do? We can put it in my script here, and we're going to say, okay, the URL is this. We then have post data, so when we press that button, it sends a post request with our JWT token. We're going to paste that in here. All right. Then we say, okay, when a text is valid, it says valid JWT. So that's how our tool is going to know, okay, that's valid text, and then we use the method post. So now if I run my script, you see it'll do some things. It'll show us the token. So we have this header, we have this data in it currently. It's then going to check a couple of things. If the token is required, if it's being checked, it's going to check the origin, and then it's going to start going through some vulnerabilities. For example, in this case, it checked the none algorithm vulnerability, which is where we changed this algorithm here to none. and some servers accept that, and then you don't need to supply any signature at all. So you can modify your token the way you want. Okay, so it says, okay, success, we found that was valid. So now I can start modifying this token. So I'm gonna say I want to keep the header the same, and then for the data, we're gonna change this message here to say, hello, hacked by Pink Draconian. Okay, and it gives us the token. So now we can use this token, and if we paste it in here, send it, we'll see it says, hey, hacked by Pink Draconian. So we were able to modify this token and get into it that way. And then there's a lot of more stuff. There's also a lot of stuff that I still need to add, but yeah, this is the tool that I will be releasing in the next month, I believe. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I hope that's interesting to you guys.
I really look forward to seeing that tool. It sounds very interesting to me. I've been coming across a couple of JWT tokens and wondering how I could hack them. So that sounds very interesting. Like, I don't know if you took into account like the normal things like algorithm change, probably like things to algorithm none. Do we?
You have the algorithm change to from the HS, from the HMAC to the RSA. You have some header injections like JKU with some JWKS pages that you can host locally and that you can use. So there's a lot of different attacks, and all of them will be included. Currently, I don't have all of them yet, but the goal is to have all of them in there. So it's like this one tool that you can always use on any JWT situation. It's going to tell you, is this vulnerable or is this not? So you don't waste time on that.
That looks really interesting. Really look forward to that. Okay, so for the tool that I've been focusing on this week, it's mostly been AI focused. I've been trying to write plugins for Burp that will automatically scan for interesting parameters. Now, what do I mean by that? Say, for example, you're looking for local file inclusion or remote file inclusion. What I want my AI module or my Burp plugin to do basically is it will look for any parameter which will include a file, and it will show that parameter, and it will let you try LFI and RFI on it. It will look for SSRF wherever possible. It will basically like highlight some parameters for you. But of course, that's not a tool that I'm going to be releasing soon, because there's quite a lot of work that still needs to be done. I don't have anything to show you guys yet either. I've mostly been working on getting Burp plugins to work for now, but I've had a couple of good ideas for how I can make my test data structured and how I can make that work. That's mostly interesting for me because there is still a big test data biased. I want to feed it my data engine. I want to feed it some parameters, and I want to feed it some vulnerabilities that are found on those parameters. But I didn't really have a good data source up until like a couple of weeks ago. I came up with the idea of just scouring the HackerOne activities and any published write-ups. So those will be my next places to look for test data. And then I want to deliver like a trained module, and the trained module will take in any parameter that it sees and judge it by its validity, and then give you a score. Like this one is maybe 50% likely to be LFI, RFI related or something like that. So that's pretty much what I've been working on, very conceptual up till this point.
That's very interesting. Because I obviously I'm a student AI. I'm an AI student, so this stuff really interests me, and I'm going to be doing an internship where I'm going to also do some AI and combine it with security as well. And yeah, for AI data, getting your data is the hardest part. And definitely with hacking, it's really difficult to get structured data out of it, because you said you were going to parse reports on HackerOne.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of
the it's not really structured, right? The data, it's in all different kinds of formats, or is it structured?
It's very unstructured, so I'm going to have to think of some ways, but I've already looked at some like regular expressions that I can use. So it's not going to get everything. It's going to miss quite a lot, of course. But
but obviously that's if you're parsing a lot, that's not really a big deal, is it?
Exactly, that's what I've been thinking as well. Like if I can parse maybe 100,000 reports or something, I should be able to get at least 10,000 different parameters with their respective attack strings. Um, and of course, I want to keep those into account as well. You know, when it suggests that a parameter might be vulnerable to LFI, RFI, I wanted to give you an attack string as well. I don't just wanted to tell you like try this on that parameter. So it's an interesting task that I still have
I think
ahead of me.
it'll take a while to get it fully up and running.
Yeah, this is not something that's going to be released next month for sure.
Yeah.
Especially as well since I want to deliver like a trained data engine in the form of a burp plugin. I don't want anybody to have to train their engines or anything. That sounds like a lot of tedious work that I want to avoid.
Yeah.
But then again, we get into the same conundrum of somebody having a scanner that everybody else does.
Yeah.
So, of course, maybe get some data collection in there as well. So it might be an evolving scanner or something like that. I'm not 100% sure yet. But first things first right now is get all of the test data right. And make sure that I have that and that I don't have any bias. A funny story I have about that is that there used to be this AI and researchers fed it like pictures of wolves and dogs, and the AI had to tell if it was a wolf or a dog. And they fed it like some test data, like a dog on a snowy background. And the AI, it immediately recognized it as a wolf because most of the wolves were on snowy backgrounds. That's some... Nobody would ever think of that in advance, but you really have to very carefully consider those types of things.
Yeah, bias is a really big issue in AI, and like another maybe a little bit less funny story is where they used AI in America and in policing, where they would detect if an area had a high chance of somebody doing drugs there or selling drugs there. And what happened? Well, currently in America, there's a lot more police going into black areas and black neighborhoods. So a lot of the data was from black neighborhoods. So the AI was kind of like, okay, if this is a black neighborhood, the chances are way higher. And what happens? Okay, police get the AI. They say, okay, we need to go intervene there. We need to go check there. So they generate more data, and the AI gets more biased towards that. So in AI, it's very, very hard to get non-biased data and then get that working right. So yeah, it's going to be a big challenge for you.
Yeah, exactly. But like anything that's worth doing, it takes a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You got to work for it.
All right, so the last section that we have for you guys is the bug bounty target of the week before we move on to some viewer questions. We both chose the same target, actually. Quite a funny story. We didn't know this from each other, but we both picked Red Bull, and I think we both have the same reasons. So, Pink, if you want to tell your reasons, maybe.
Yeah, so I think Red Bull is a really great beginner's choice because on a lot of these targets, they have been there for a while, and a lot of the big researchers or people that do this for a living have gone on there and have tried to find stuff. But the Red Bull target is different because it doesn't offer like cash or money. So when you find something, you'll get some Red Bull. And that might seem like stupid. Like, why would I want to spend my time on that if I'm just going to get some Red Bull if I find something? Well, if you're a beginner, you just want to get your first finds. You want to get into things. You want to get a feel for it. And if you go on these targets that have been parsed over by researchers so many times and by the top researchers, then, well, it might be harder to find stuff. I'm not saying it's impossible, but as a beginner, it might be harder. And it might also be disheartening to spend like a month on some targets and not find anything. Whereas with this one, you might have more luck. And since it's not been parsed by the best guys in the field yet.
Yeah, that's really good reasoning behind that. I have about very similar reasoning as well, that Red Bull hasn't been online for that long yet either. Mm-hmm. They have only been online for a couple of months, and as well for their giant scope. Like anything Red Bull related is in scope, it appears. If it's confirmed to be a Red Bull asset, then it's in scope, so that's really cool. Apparently, you just have to check if the whois record for the domain belongs to Red Bull. And if it does, then apparently it's in scope. So That's also a big plus for me, of course. Now, quite a few submissions have been made, but do not let that discourage you guys, because the scope is so giant and there's still so much to be found there that it's incredible. Like, I have been looking, and especially since this is very important, if you guys want to hack on Red Bull, read their out of scope very, very well, because they have reflected and DOM cross-site scripting out of scope. And anything related to Jira is also out of scope, so if you find anything in that trend, do not report it. And also read those domains very, very carefully, because I had a blind cross-site scripting on one of these out of scope domains, and that crushed my heart when I read that it was out of scope. So really, I would advise you guys to look into this program, because same, very, very high scope, very broad scope. And one thing I wanted to touch on, if you're a bug bounty hunter and you think I'm going to choose my target based on how much it pays, you're probably doing it wrong. At least that's my opinion, because like one of the biggest payers on integrity is Dalen Private Bank. And they have a very, very good payout scheme. But believe me, the chance that you're going to find anything on their assets is going to be very, very small. I've tried, believe me.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're still a beginner, if you're not that well versed, don't go for the big fish. If you go fishing, you don't go fishing for sharks on your first day. You know, it's
Exactly.
start small, grow and get better, and then go for those big boys.
All right, so we have a couple of questions from our viewers. Let's see here, everybody. Tofu says, can you test site for a bug? I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Oh, he said as well.
I think he means it's at live, but to live do a bug bounty test right now. I don't think that's...
No, that's not possible. The problem with that is when we do that and we actually find a vulnerability, everybody who's watching will know about that vulnerability, and that's not something we want with responsible disclosures. So
I love the comment by Ipson saying documentation is great is a great read for toilet breaks too.
But make sure you don't spend too much time on the toilet, otherwise your legs will fall asleep and you might die.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, we don't want that, do we?
Tofi also says, I found a bug, upload file, but problem when put content type to PHP and open file, it downloads to my PC. Yeah, that's not vulnerable, I'm afraid.
That's not vulnerable.
What you're trying to do there is you're trying to execute the PHP file, but it's not getting executed. It just recognizes it as a downloadable file, so there's probably no PHP engine running there. Let's see, Zeus asks, can you tell me a little bit about deserialized bugs and how they lead to RCEs? Do you want to take this one?
Deserialization, it's a very big topic, and it's not something that you can really explain unprepared. So I will get you a link to a video, because there's very great videos on this. I think IPSEC made one, so give me a second and I'll get you that one, and I really suggest checking that out.
All right, thank you very much. Like you say, deserialization is very complex, and every single implementation is going to have its own very different way of leading to remote code executions. So thanks for that.
I don't know if you guys can see the link in the description, in the chat.
I don't think so. Give me a second.
I'll send you the link on Discord as well. But yeah, for deserialization as well, there's so many, you can do it in so many programming languages as well. You can do it in Java, PHP, and so on. So it's hard to really get like one answer for it. But if you think there might be a vulnerability, you might be able to deserialize something, look into your specific case, your specific programming language, and get deeper into that.
Yeah, exactly. And don't blindly trust Burp when it says that something has a deserialization bug. Always be careful with that. So I pasted the link in the chat. If you guys are done with this, you can go watch that. Disciple says, "What's up, you amazing hackers? Hope you're doing well today. Love you back, my brother. Thank you for being here." Francisco says, "How much would you recommend of daily practice in order to not get frustrated, but advance without burning out and maintain a healthy lifestyle?" Tough one.
Yeah, it's very tough, but I think for me, what helps me not get burned out is there's so many different fields in this. You have web application hacking, you can do Active Directory, you can do all these different kinds of things, and even in those fields you can dig deeper. So if I feel like I'm on a topic and I'm like, I've kind of seen this, I'm done with this, I don't want to do testing on this anymore, switch to something else, start maybe learning something new, go back to something you've already tried before in the past, and switch it up so you don't get bored and you can always keep on going without getting frustrated. And for your amount of time that you would say for daily practice, that really depends on kind of who you are and what you're doing. If back in a year ago, I was spending like 8 hours a day on it and loving that. But now if I try to do 8 hours a day, I feel that it's kind of weighing on me. So see what's comfortable for you. That's my best advice. And don't burn yourself out by trying to go too hard. If you're bored, take a break. If you feel like your brain's exploding, go for a walk, go outside and take those breaks.
Yeah, I can only wholeheartedly support that. It's very important to keep sane, especially when, like, hacking is a very high pressure field for me. Mentally draining, physically draining, because like you say, some of these certifications, some of these CTFs, they request that you stay up for 24 hours. Yep. That's very draining. So what helps for me is keeping a good lifestyle, like keeping healthy with your food, keeping healthy with your sleep. Very important to do that. That way, if you have one of those nightly binges where you stay up for a couple of hours, it doesn't matter as much. But also, like, take your time to learn something, you know, give yourself that time. I used to be very tough on myself. If I didn't learn something within like a couple of hours, I would just give up. But it doesn't work that way, and especially when you start learning more and more, like if you start learning the basics, of course it might work like that, but as you progress further and further, it's going to get harder and harder to learn things, and you're going to need more and more time. So that's one of the things that's very important for me, is to give yourself that time and to not be too tough on yourself. And to also sorry, go ahead. One of the last things I wanted to say is to just take the time to be proud of yourself, you know. Just look back where you came from, because it's very far. Every step that you take is one giant step towards the right path. Yeah, that's definitely true. And I want to add to that, don't be afraid to take a break. If you're not feeling it for a don't do anything for a week. That's fine. People take breaks. And I think that with Twitter and everything you see, it always seems like everybody's always working 24/7, because you see so many people saying, oh, I found this, I got paid out this, but that's all different people. People need breaks to like process stuff too. So make sure that you take a vacation sometimes, as I like to call it, from doing maybe nothing for a couple of days. Make sure that you regenerate that power and that willingness to keep on going, and then get back to it. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's very important as well, those breaks. I've been taking a long break from bug bounties myself as well. Not because I've been sick of them, but because I've needed some downtime, you know, some chill time, especially with this lockdown. I've been feeling quite blue, and it helps to just go and take a walk in the forest, you know. So let's see. Pachik says, hello guys, hello you amazing. Matthias says, white hat stalking. I mean, OSINT challenges are so fun. OSINT is honestly, it's so fun just to spend like an afternoon on like a random person. I used to do this where I would like game with some people online, with some random people, and then I would ask them, hey, can I see what can I try to find stuff on you? And they would be like, yeah, go ahead, you won't be able to find anything. And then within like a couple of hours I could come back to them, hey, this is your maiden name, you're this, and it's such a fun skill. It's for me, it's like a good afternoon of me wanting to relax, just doing some OSINT. I like it a lot. Yeah, same. Like, like you say, and then you're like, oh, I found your old dating profile from when you were 14 years old. You look great on that picture, by the way. Yeah, OSINT is amazing. Like, there are some OSINT CTFs as well. One really popular one of my subscribers recommended it to me, and it's where you can help doing OSINT, and you actually help outstanding missing person cases being solved.
Oh.
So that was a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Francisco says, wow, that last part was very powerful. Thank you. We'll send you some cheese when I can. Hey, don't worry about that, guys. All of the love you're giving us is amazing. 17 people at the same time online. Wow, that's really awesome. Lena says, ending off on a positive note like this is so motivating no matter what you do daily. That's really awesome. Like,
thank you, Lena.
Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Hacker Community says, hey, I played your CTF. Did you also organize one, or is he talking about the red CTF?
I think he's talking about yours.
Oh, thanks, Hacker Community. Yeah, I really enjoyed organizing that CTF. We are starting to build for our second one on 2021. So one of the biggest mistakes that we've made is we actually done our CTF and we only made it like one big challenge. And it was really cool, don't get me wrong, the box that was built for that challenge was mind-blowing, but it was super, super hard, and I think that's what scared a lot of people away as well. Though I must say, quite a lot of people hacked it fully. That's something I didn't expect. There were quite a lot of teams that actually did get it fully there. So, oh wow, thank you Rennie Pack for that €2. Thank you very much for that super chat. Yeah,
that's amazing.
He sent us a sticker that says 1UP, but actually Lead Up is coming up soon, and I'm really freaking hyped for that. It's the live hacking event from Integrity. I don't know if you're invited.
Yeah, that's gonna be exciting.
Oh, I'm super hyped for that, man. I have my scope call soon, so we'll see how that goes. I'm really, really hyped for that, man.
Damn, that's cool.
It's my first live hacking event, and it's going to be so freaking awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna tune in. Check that out.
Yeah.
Hey, on your CTF, when is your next CTF? Because I was so sad that I couldn't play in your first one or the one this year.
I'm trying to aim for somewhere the middle next year because I also want to bring out a course soon. So I hope that's going to be released somewhere in the beginning of 2021. Hard at work for that. And afterwards we're going to go full on for the next CTF. It's going to be freaking awesome because the box they wanted to build and that they were talking about, I don't know if you know Hack 5, but they sell like
yeah, I do.
It's freaking awesome. They sell like
they have cool gadgets.
Yeah, if you guys ever want to feel like an awesome hacker, I would visit that website and get something cool from there. And one of the boxes, one of the challenges is going to be based around one of the rubber duckies. So,
oh wow,
really cool.
Very interesting. Count me in.
I don't know if you guys have any more questions, by the way. Feel free to drop them in the chat. We can answer them for you. I don't know if you wanted to say anything to our viewers, like any closing notes or any final tips.
Yeah, I want to say thank you all for tuning in. It's been really nice. Better than I expected. I mean, I expected great things, but it was very amazing. And thanks all for tuning in, and for listening to us. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. I enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much, Pink Draconian, for being here.
It's been a pleasure.
As far as I'm concerned, we can make this a very regular thing. So
definitely.
For those of you guys who want, the full VOD is going to be available on Pink Draconian's channel. So thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. I see we have one more question from Data Disciple. One question I have, I was just wondering if you guys knew of any cloud services that take gift cards. I don't want to use my own credit card. You can use a prepaid credit card on most services. Like you can just Google prepaid credit card and you can charge it up with whatever amount you want, and then you can use that for doing cloud services. Like Linode, they take prepaid credit cards, you know.
I think
And
with Azure you can also do that.
yeah,
Not too sure though.
that's possible. I
I
think.
know with Azure, if you're a student, you get 100 euros for free. So
Oh, that's really
if you're a
cool.
student, check that out.
Didn't know that. Thank you for that tip. I think I'm going to be a student again soon. Let's see. Pachik is asking, how do you learn to be better in finding logic bugs instead of reading others' writes-up or hunting something you don't know until you find something interesting? Is there any other way to get better in logic vulnerabilities? There's this game on Nintendo DS called Brain Training, and it's made for logic. No, it's really not easy to get good at logic vulnerabilities. That's one of the hardest things I think that's out there, one of the hardest types of vulnerabilities to find. And I also don't think I like it as much as I do because I don't think it's automatable very easily. All of those logic vulnerabilities are going to be safe for quite a while. And if you really want to get good at it, there are a couple of Portswigger labs. Of course, I would go through them. You can read the Portswigger Academy. They have a full report on finding logic vulnerabilities. But most of all, one tip that I always give is to use your application until you get bored out of your mind using that application. And why I tell you this is because when you're doing that, you stumble across things that are out of the ordinary. Like, say, for example, you're testing your application, you try adding 10 shoes to your basket and you try checking out. That might work, it might not. But then when you're bored out of your mind, you try to add 99 shoes or maybe minus 1 shoe, or maybe you try adding A shoes, you know. All of those different things that you can do, they come when you're bored. That's what I found. I don't know if you've any.
I think also for logic, you kind of need to get a great map of what's going on, like what is connected to what, and then just map the whole structure in your head. And the good notes also help a lot with that.
Very true.
Well, you first have to understand the logic and then see, okay, what would be illogical that maybe is allowed. You know, that's how I view it.
Exactly. Inti from Integrity, he said about like when everybody starts up their tools, when everybody's hacking, I start reading the manual, and I found that something that really stuck with me, because that's the only way of getting to know your application good enough to find any logic vulnerabilities, in my opinion. So
I need to learn from that.
LP Zone says you cannot use prepaids with Azure. I think I tried Revolt some time ago and failed. Okay, I usually use.
Sorry, that's my bad.
It's really hard to know which ones take prepaid and which ones don't. But I would just try, just go around and try a couple of things. So thank you guys very, very much for tuning in. Thank you again, Pink Draconian, for this. It's been really a pleasure.
It's been great.
I will see you guys next time, and Pink Draconian, I will see you soon.